There are 5 business engines in your office. The first one I'd like to talk about is clinical and, yeah, there we go, clinical and technology. So this is about you getting great at your clinical skills and continuing to learn. We have a concept at Fortune based on a Japanese word, kaizen. Has anyone heard that word before? So I threw a Greek word at you today. Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, good. I should have tested. So kaizen. I threw a Greek word at you, now I'm throwing a Japanese word at you. So it's spelled K-A-I-Z-E-N. It's actually made up of 2 words, kai, which means change, and zen, which means better. It's about change for the better. Every day, making small incremental improvements. And so at Fortune, we really drive that philosophy home. And you guys are doing this. You're building your clinical skills. You go to get CE credits. And I like to think about this as sharpening the saw. There was a gentleman that went into the woods and observed a second man feverishly sawing down a tree. And as he took a closer look, he noticed that the second gentleman was really not making much progress, right? So he said, he wanted to take a closer look. So he took a closer look, and he realized that the saw wasn't very sharp. So he said to the second man, the first man said to the second man, well, maybe you should just take a break from sawing and sharpen the saw. And the man, feverishly sawing away, replied, I can't do that. I'm way too busy sawing down the tree. Right? So we have to take a step back and sharpen the saw and get good at what we're doing, and it's going to get you better results as well. Systems and organizations. System and organization. There are 6 key systems in the dental office, and I will make a guarantee for you today. If you become great at all 6 of these systems, you can't fail. You will definitely succeed in the dental office. Would you like to know what they are? Okay, good. So first is a new patient experience. You have to have a master new patient experience. Really wow them when they walk into your office. For example, how many people have technology in their office like CEREC? Who has a CEREC machine? I see a couple of hands. How about intraoral cameras? I see a few. Great. Intraoral cameras are the #1 enrollment tool in the dental office. So if you don't have it or you're not using it effectively, use it. So a new patient experience could include taking the patient around. What do you do, for example, when a guest comes into your house for the first time? Don't you kind of show them around and give them a tour of the house? Well, give them a tour of the office and show them the technology. It's a great marketing tool. So you want a great new patient experience. The second system is recare. And you have to be really good at recare and keeping people in your recare system. The next is reactivation. So when people fall out of the recare system, then you have a good way to get them back in. And no matter how good you are at pre-appointing people, and I'm sure you're all doing that when they leave the office from their current hygiene appointment, you're getting them on the schedule for the next hygiene appointment, people will cancel and people will call. There's still a way for them to fall through the cracks. A good reactivation system will catch them and put them back in. The next is scheduling to goal. We're going to talk a lot about goals a little bit later, and you want to have a good system that matches up your schedule with your daily production goals. Next is good financial policies. So what are you doing with your patients to get them to enroll, and how are you making them affordable, and are your policies very clear and crisp around that? And the last one is around monitoring. What gets measured gets done. So you need good monitoring systems to identify what's on track and what's going well so you can continue doing those, and what may be off track so you can adjust. Do you know that how many people have taken an airplane flight recently? Anyone? Yeah, a few folks. Did you know that 90% of the time the airplane is actually off course? It's actually off course. So what it does is it uses its monitoring systems to readjust and get back on course, because it knows what its endpoint is, and it always gets to the endpoint. you need good monitoring systems as well. So those are the 6 key systems. Next is finance. This is about really understanding what your profitability is about. So being clear about the top line and your collections and your overhead expenses and understanding what your overhead is. We look at 5 controllable overhead items: your dental supplies, your office supplies, your lab, your marketing, and the biggest, what's your biggest expense? Payroll, staff compensation, right? You want to really understand all of those. And you want to have a good system like a QuickBooks or a Quicken in your office so that at any given moment you can look and see where you stand on those things on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. What's next? People. Some may say people is one of the most important items on this slide. And you want to provide a great place for people to work. You want to create an environment where you as the doctor, number one, and the leader, but also your team, wakes up in the morning and looks in the mirror and says, I am really excited about getting to work today. I am really excited about providing great dental care and overall health to our patients. That's where you want to be. And if you're not, I don't know, maybe it's not the right place, I don't know. But people is a really important part of all of this. Sales and marketing. There are 4 parts of sales and marketing, and as I spoke with a number of you, and some of you responded in the biggest challenge question about marketing and getting new patients. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that. I'll skip over it for now and come back to it in just a minute. In the center of all of this is a clear vision. Being crystal clear about where you want to go. Think about a picture of some point in the future that you're always working towards to fill in the pieces of it and get it. And so the clearer that picture is, the easier that path is going to be to get there. I think about Jack Nicklaus. You guys know who Jack Nicklaus is? One of the greatest golfers of all time, right? And what he does before any tournament and before and on his way to the golf course, he pictures in his mind every shot on every hole. He gets really clear about what he wants and what he expects. And he attributes a lot of his success to that visioning work. And so one of the things we do with practices is we take them through an annual plan. And as part of that annual planning process, we ask a number of questions. And by the way, as a coach, Tara introduced me as a coach, right? That's one of my key jobs, is to ask a lot of good questions. Because as a good coach, what I bring to the table is a good process. And what you bring to the table is great content. You know the content of your work better than anyone else. And so the questions that I may ask you to think about are, how much do you want to make next year in terms of top line and bottom line? What do you want your patient base to look like? What do you want your facility to look like? What do you want your staff to look like? And how do you want to reward your staff? It's another part of the people system, is you really want to reward those great people that you have in a way to keep them on board and keep them excited. And so what do you want your practice to look like? Every one of you, if I went around the room and asked, there's 60 people in here, if I asked, I'd get 60 different answers about what you want your practice to look like. And maybe very similar for people that are on the same team. So that's something you want to customize and get really clear about what your vision and what your practice is about. Does that make sense? Yeah?